Hey everybody, thanks for coming out to the webinar today. Our Vertical Response for Partners webinar, kind of a general purpose webinar meant to give you some information on how to better position and sell vertical response so that you can get more out of it, and also to give you some sneak peeks and some more information about some things you may or may not know were coming, or you may or may not be using in vertical response that are free for you and your clients to use. It's just part of using the account. So my name is Richard, as you can see on the slide. I'm the Education and Training Manager here at Vertical Response. Also here with me is Christina, who many of you probably already know is really being our main Partner Success Manager. Is that the right title?
Partner Success Manager, yes.
All right, good. I'm not good with titles. Well, apparently I'm good with titles because I got it right. So let's go ahead and jump right in to the presentation here. Let's look at our agenda. It's not a very long agenda. First, welcome introductions. We're doing that right now. And then we're going to talk a little bit about vertical response for partners and vertical response, how things are standing right now with us. We're then going to look at what makes a vertical response partner successful and then do a demo. Not really a vertical response for partners. I meant to delete the partners pod, but really a vertical response. And again, a lot of functionality there that's brief shortly will be here for you to use and for your clients to use, and other functionality that you may or may not already be putting in place that could certainly help you do a lot with vertical response. So also know, of course, you can see here there will be a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. So if you do think of questions, please send them over using the question option in GoToWebinar, and we will answer those questions during that portion of the presentation. And I'm sure we'll be able to get to any and all questions that do come over. So that's just a quick overview of vertical response. I know for the people on this call, there's varying levels of knowledge about who we are, so I just want to quickly talk a bit about us. We've been in business since 2001, so we're here to stay. We're no fly-by-night company. We, as I've mentioned in two places on the slide here, what's very important to us is email. That's our main focus in everything that we do, and so we're really focused on email delivery. Part of that is being a member of several email industry coalitions, the most important of which is the Email Service Provider Coalition, which we've been a part of since it was founded, and which had a very big part in the drafting of the CAN-SPAM Act in Congress, and in making sure that legitimate providers like Vertical Response are able to get their mail delivered to the ESPs like Yahoo and Comcast and every place like that. We do have a 99.5 to 99.7% delivery rate reported by ReturnPath. That's the primary third-party measuring system, so that's very important to us. That's pretty much the highest in the industry, I would say, though. Obviously, things change day to day, and I can't speak for all our competitors. I don't want to pretend like I know what all the delivery rates are when I don't. Our product is obviously meant to be a self-service product. Of course, many of you may be using it in a full-service way in which you're doing full service for your customers, but we're there to be a self-service product for people to be able to easily pick up and use. As you all know, you can create email and direct mail postcards from one single interface, plus you can create surveys and really manage and build your lists there. Pricing is getting flexible. We do the pay-as-you-go, but as we will see, and as many of you have probably been awaiting, we're also going to be offering monthly pricing with partners very soon, and we'll take a look at how that's going to work. And then our product does win awards. We've won awards both for our Salesforce integration, which I don't know if any of you are actually involved with, and for our regular product that happens yearly. Even our CEO's blog has won awards. I would mention them, but I don't remember all of them off the top of my head. But they're there, I promise. So we also have, again, we have great list management, a great media library, things like that that you can put to use. Let's talk a little bit about VR for partners and where things happened in 2008. We had 80% growth in our partner group. We also had some departmental changes. We got a VP of Business Development who's in charge of partners. Partners was previously just part of sales. Now we have an entire channel developed that is actually focused on partner development and making sure things are the way you guys need them to be. Of course, Christina is on the call here, and she's one of the partner success managers. Also coming along to help her out is Michelle Urban, who is our newest partner success manager. Previously, she was in the sales team, so she has a lot of experience here at Vertical Response. She's not just new off the street or anything like that. So how are partners using Vertical Response? Just to give you a picture of how people are using this, I'd say they're using this as you would expect. One, we have people who are using a full service where, in that case, their customers never see the application. They build the emails. They launch them out. They have accounts for each customer. They're billing them on their own and paying for things directly themselves. There are people with self-service partnerships where their clients are in our application all the time, using it, building their own emails, launching them out, and then getting paid through commission when that person makes a payment or makes a purchase, or maybe they're making, or maybe you or they are making the purchases themselves, and then spreading those credits out to those self-service using customers. And then we have plenty of clients who do both. They hybrid in a combination where some of their customers are full service and they never see the application, and some of them are self-service. Again, it's a fairly obvious thing, but I just want to describe how people are using the application, how there are different levels. This is what we see. Obviously, if you're a hybrid combination, doesn't mean you're half and half. You could be one person that you're full service with and everyone else is self-service, but it's not like you can't do both at the same time.
I've also seen some partners where they, in the hybrid sort of model, where they are creating the content for their sub-account, and then the sub-account is going in and purchasing the credits and sending the campaign out. So it's kind of like this tag team of both of them logging into the account and taking actions. So that's sort of another model that we've seen.
Great. So one thing that I actually want to do here at this point while we're talking about different ways that it's used is just do a poll of the audience to see how you guys are using it. So let me pull that poll up really quickly. Oh, look, they disappeared. So I was going to do a poll, but apparently I'm not, because I built the poll and apparently didn't save it. So that's a good indication of my professionalism and my abilities. I did have 3 webinars today. Sorry, if you would like to go into the question panel and tell us whether you're full service, self-service, or hybrid, that would be great, but you certainly do not have to do that. And just on my 3rd webinar, I hadn't made a mistake all day, but now I made one. It's just always in my nature to at least make one mistake in some webinar, so I should have known it would come in this one. I know I probably added it to some other webinar that has nothing to do with partners, and now I'll run that in a week. But that's great anyway. It's not like it's that important to know. I just like to keep everybody engaged, so hopefully mistakes keep you engaged as much as polls do. So what about the industries that are using us as partners? And again, we're not going to spend so much time just talking about partners, but I want to spend a little time just setting the tone here. And Christina, if you wanted to talk a little bit about people you know and have seen using us, what sort of groups and how they're doing it.
Yeah, we generally have sort of broken down the types of customers that we see joining the partner program into these sort of categories. And then, of course, there are some outliers that we just sort of categorize as other. But we have a lot of agencies who use us when they offer web design or other types of services, and they want to be able to add the email marketing piece and don't want to have to build that whole infrastructure to do it. So we're obviously a good choice for them. We have a lot of software providers who, like a CRM tool like Salesforce, who wants to offer email marketing as well. And then consultants who sort of are similar to agencies, and franchises also who want to maintain their consistent branding and be able to offer email marketing to their franchisees. So those are sort of just a general idea of the types of people and companies that are using us.
Yeah. Great. And then just those people who are using us, we have some examples of how they're putting us to use. And I know no one has more experience talking to partners than Christina, so if you wanted to maybe talk a little bit about.
Yeah, we have, I've definitely seen, and we sort of are pointing to some partners who we've definitely seen a lot of success with the program and what they're doing, and just kind of wanted to highlight a few of those examples. For example, with the example we have number 1 here, this particular partner really provides a good path and goal for each of their new sub-accounts and helps them along with creating their account and getting them on a path. And then they also provide free credits initially for their new accounts, so just to get them ready and get them sending right away.
So essentially they get them addicted to email, and then
right, and then they can't leave.
And then they can't leave, and then they start paying for it at that point. Then.
Exactly, yeah. So Another example that we have of a partner who's been very successful is, and what they really love is using the custom border tool, where they're providing us with the HTML content and we're hard coding it to their client sub account, and that client is able to use the custom border without it's just so foolproof. They like it that they can't mess it up. Whereas with the Canvas, it's a tool that you can more easily mess around with the HTML and cause problems. So that's a really interesting, and with this partner, they also, you're able to upcharge for the creative costs of creating the HTML, and that's another way that that partner makes money from their client as well.
So what they're doing then is and you all may know that you can do this or not, but in the wizard tool, one of the editing tools in the system, we have all those borders there that people can choose from. You can have borders created for you, or that you can create the HTML for and give to us, that we can then hard code into accounts under your partnership. And you can even be limited to where they can only see borders that you've created in that account, or that you can, obviously, they can pay you to build borders to put in there. But really, it's the wizard. It's just a border that's built into the system, but it's a way that you can kind of help your clients with the look of their email.
Yep, exactly. And sort of along that lines, we also have partners who do this, where they create the HTML and then they just paste it into the Edit Source tab in the Canvas campaign, and then allow the client to just make little tweaks to that template and then send it off. And again, they can upcharge for those creative costs of creating the HTML initially.
And I mean, something else that, again, you may or may not know, is that every email that goes out through VerticalResponse is archived. And then also you could create an email in the drafts folder and people can just copy it and use it again and again. So with the Canvas, what often happens with partners is that someone will make the HTML and use the Canvas tool, since you can go on the Canvas and click Edit Source and copy and paste your own HTML to set up layouts for their customers. Obviously, it doesn't cost, you don't have to go through us at all. This is just something you can do in an account on your own. And create layouts, name them a template, and then just tell them just use that as the basis for your emails going forward. Now, obviously in the Canvas, if you've used it, there's more flexibility for what you could mess up in there as a customer, but you create a good layout for them, and they don't have to do all that much except for add their own pictures and text, and then, that's something you can charge them to do.
Exactly. And another sort of example of which a lot of agencies do this, where they create the email campaigns and they're buying the credits and then deploying them, and then once the campaigns have reporting, they neatly package all of the statistics and provide that to their client. And so this sort of full service model, they're able to sort of bundle all of the costs of the entire, from creative to sending and reporting, into one cost for their clients. And that's also, we've seen a lot of success with that as well.
And something nice with that, if you are doing full service, and again, if you are, you probably already know how you would do it, because then from your account, you can buy all the credits there and get a cheaper rate, and then use them for all your clients that you're charging. And so it's just a nice way to get it cheaper for yourself when
Yep.
you're doing the full service stuff, to buy it all at once and then move it, or just share it with all of your other accounts.
Absolutely.
But any full service people would, I'm sure, already know that. Mm-hmm. Let's talk a little bit about positioning email and why it's still useful even in a world full of people using Twitter and Facebook and everything else, and why it works specifically with VerticalResponse, and why we've been successful, and why we hope you can be successful with it as well. For one, within VerticalResponse, obviously with the wizard and the canvas, there is no HTML or design experience required to put these emails together. Now, it might take some experience using those tools before you can put a good email together. You do have to play around with them, but you don't have to be a designer. I mean, that's true of not just us. There are other providers that do the same thing. But I don't know that the same level of differentiation exists anywhere but us as to the options you have to build your email. You have a very basic thing with the wizard. You have a canvas that provides you all the flexibility you want. You have a way to copy and paste in your own HTML if you need to do that. and you can just do very basic emails. For most, it's just one editor that tries to serve all purposes, whereas we try to break them up to give people a lot of choices based on your level of experience. So it's easier for us to fit into numerous categories of different customers because they don't have to try to fit into a one-size-fits-all sort of place. Of course, it only takes a few minutes to put those emails together. A few minutes is probably being a little too over the top. I know it takes even me probably an hour to build an email if I want to get the quality right and the content right. Again, as is true of so many, there's no software to purchase, and it's simple. It's simply pay as you go, and our monthly pricing, as we will soon see. The thing is, that's obvious that there's no software to purchase. But even when I do a demo, and I do demos all the time, people still ask me, people ask me where they can buy it sometimes, and do they download it to their computer. So I know it's silly, and you can assume that people know they just log into an account to do it, but it's not something to assume. People don't assume that at all. Of course, with email, and why email is so successful as compared to other forms of advertising, is that results are very much immediate. And when someone gets an email and clicks a link, you can see immediately what they've done. And if you're using something like Google Analytics to track traffic on a website, and then use our free Google Analytics integration, you can see what that person did specifically on your website after they clicked that link. And Google Analytics is something I'll look at too in a little bit. So you get immediate feedback, you get immediate results. If someone's going to make a purchase from an email, some people will wait and maybe it'll influence them to come back later, but often it'll be something they do right away. And also, email is an even playing field, much like a website. You don't have to have a huge storefront or anything like that to look big. As long as your email looks nice, you can look like one of the big guys, and that's why we have so many creative tools. It's because we want to help our clients' emails look nice. So as far as what you can do to get your customers started, and what you should be recommending to them when they get started, I mean, again, this alone could be an hour webinar, and so this is really just more of tips and things like that. It's not like I think I'm placing all knowledge on this slide. But some things that you always, always, always should be thinking of when dealing with a new client, trying to help them build their mailing list, is that one, they need to have an opt-in form up on their website, or they have if you're building landing pages for them, an opt-in form on that. But an opt-in form on a website, there's nothing more important to collecting email addresses than that. You've got to think that people visit your website all the time, and most of them do not become customers when they show up, and that if you don't ask them for give them the opportunity to request more information from you, and then you're just trusting them to make their way back to your site someday and actually become a customer, whereas you offer them the opportunity to ask for information, and then you're sort of meeting them midway. They don't have to become a customer, but they're interested in learning more, and then you can reach out to them, and then the ball's in your court. You convince them to come back instead of hoping that they come back to your website. And so that's a good thing for your clients to have. Obviously, we have the free opt-in form wizard that you can use to put the opt-in forms together, and then it collects in your client's account. Or, there are other tools that you can use those too. Just adds an extra step of having to upload the lists. That's something that can also be done, and obviously it's a product that we provide. You can mail postcards to offline names and addresses to get people to opt in to the email if you don't have the email address. Now, why would you do that? Not all those people are going to opt in, and you're going to spend a lot of money mailing them postcards. Well, the reason is that obviously it costs much more money to mail a postcard out. And if you have someone's postal address, what better way to get them into a much cheaper and easier marketing cycle than to mail them and ask them if they will sign up for your mailing list? Because then you have them on your email address, you have them in your email list. It's significantly cheaper to market to them then, and then they're engaged in something that's far more engaging than anything you could ever send them in the mail, because far more people open emails than ever look at things that they receive in the mail. Which, since I'm recommending you mail postcards, I mean, not that many people would end up signing up based on the postcard, but you're still getting what could be some very hot leads for your clients to come in from a postcard and become part of the mailing list. Customers should know that they need to make email a company initiative, whether that just be them or 2 people or 50 people that they're dealing with. And what I mean by that when I say that is that I know throughout my life and working at different companies and sometimes being upfront on the phone and talking to people, is that email is so often treated as an upsell, where you rushingly ask people for their email address before they get off the phone, and something that people on the front lines resent having to ask for because it makes people uncomfortable. Well, the reason it makes people uncomfortable to be asked for their email address is that they have no idea what you're going to do with it, and the person asking them for their email address sounds suspicious about it when they ask it because they've been told they need to collect so many email addresses as part of their job. Not that you're dealing with a lot of companies that would have some sort of call center where that happens, but still, people don't want to push people to give them information. So they need to understand that when you're creating an email and mailing to people, if you're doing it right, you're providing a value to them. You need to plan out what your emails are going to be. Are you going to be sending newsletters once a month? Are you going to be sending special offers, once every 2 weeks? What are you going to do? Because when you plan that out, then you can provide that value, which gets people more involved. But also you can tell them when you ask for their email address, this is what you're going to get. When people know what they're going to get, then they're more likely to sign up. And so when I say make that a company initiative, everyone in the company who may be involved with collecting those email addresses should know what the value is. So it's not just, oh, can I get your email address? It's more of, hey, we also have this newsletter, and in it we do this and this. Would you like for us to send that out to you? Yes. What's your email address? And we'll start sending it to you. People want to get email if it's not going to be crap. And if you can tell them what it is, then they won't think it is going to be crap. Ending transactional emails, because obviously transactional emails don't go out through vertical response. So transaction can be an email from, in response to a question or them making a purchase, linking them to sign up for a newsletter list. Now, if someone makes a purchase, you can usually kind of assume if you start mailing them right away that it's okay to email them. But if you're sending an email in response to something, just having a way for them to sign up for your list linked in that email is certainly a good value, because some of those people are going to click that link and sign up and become part of the mailing list. So that's always a great thing to recommend to people. And adding forward to a friend to all of the emails, that's really nice, and that's something you can easily do in vertical response, and it doesn't cost anything if someone forwards the email on. Is that the reason that's good is that A, it reminds people to forward the email to their friend, and of course people are going to listen to their friends before they listen to anyone else. And then two, when the person receives the email from their friend that's forwarded by clicking that link, they'll be given the opportunity to opt in to that client's mailing list. And when they opt in, then they can mail them. And so it's a really, really useful way to grow a list through word of mouth. Again, I can't stress enough how important it is for people to learn about things from their friends. I know that even Vertical Response, a faceless email company on the internet, half the people who sign up to use Vertical Response sign up because they heard about us from their friend. More than half, actually. And it's quite a lot of people. Let's talk a little bit about what makes a VR partner successful and how they can interact with their own customers or doing things on your own if you're doing full service to get things done. For one thing, if you want to get a lot of value out of email, you need to mail consistently. Doesn't mean you have to mail all the time. I'm not trying to get you to spend more money or charge people more money to mail constantly. It just means that you have a plan and you stick to it. You don't want to send 3 emails this week, 1 email next week, then no emails for a month. That's not effective, and people will start ignoring your emails. It's more about, you have a newsletter you send out once a month, if that's what you want to do, or you have an email you send out once every 2 weeks or once a week. And then in addition to those things, you might send the occasional extra email, but you know what you're going to send, and you know what your goals are from the email. Do you just want more traffic to your website? Are you hoping to make purchases, hoping people will purchase? So creating an email marketing plan is something that every new customer should be guided to do, or that you should be doing for a customer, depending on, of course, on the situation, so that they know what their goals are and what they need to do to achieve them. And then you can set up the email plan to meet those goals instead of trying to just haphazardly send emails out when you want to do something. You need to target your audience. Now, depending on how big the audience is, you can't always necessarily target, but you should know your audience and even try to use list segmentation if the audience is diverse and big enough. And we're going to look at the list segmentation tool in a second just to talk about what can be done with it. The more targeted an email is, the more successful it's going to be, because you've got to consider the more the content relates to an individual, the more likely they are going to be to respond to it. And why list segmentation is so useful in this, with vertical response and with the free tool, and any data that's in your mailing list or that you've collected through your reporting can be used, and this is true for your clients, can be used to segment your list and drill down, so that if you know customer's birthday, or you know the last purchase they made, or you know exactly what city they live in, or anything like that, you can drill down to that information. And so that can be a way to provide, if you have a business that serves a metropolitan area, like say San Francisco, which is a very large metro area, then let's say I only want to send an email to people in San Francisco or in Oakland for this deal because I have a store that's in San Francisco, and I only want to mail to people who are in the urban core of the area. Or do I want to find people in the more suburban area for that store? I don't want to send all deals to everyone because not all of them are going to relate to them. Try to hit everyone with something that relates to them. Now, that's not going to be perfect, but if you can, list seg is a great thing to be using. Obviously, using other direct marketing aside from email and aside from the things that we provide, like surveys and direct mail, and I've referenced them there since we provide them. They're very useful. A direct mail simply because you can get people's attention in a way aside from email, and surveys because you can use surveys to learn more about your customers and then respond to them. But other forms of marketing are important for people to get involved in too, besides what things that we provide. Getting people involved in using things like Google Analytics to measure their web traffic, in using web search advertising, creating a whole ecosystem kind of advertising around what you're doing will help the emails become more successful because you'll be driving more people to sign up. You'll be driving more people to the website. Using everything together instead of just doing piecemeal things here and there that's certainly going to be more effective. Again, we're going to look at these free tools that should be utilized in the account by everyone who can figure out how to use them. Maintaining the mailing list is very important. Obviously, opt-in forms we've talked about, forward to a friend we've talked about. But data maintenance is something that's not been spoken about too much here. Because people collect addresses in a lot of ways. They might collect them at a storefront. They might collect them online, which will have them already ready to go. But if you're collecting addresses offline particularly, those addresses need to be added and mailed to pretty soon after you collect them. Otherwise, they become useless over a fairly quick period of time. You've got to figure if someone comes in your store and signs up for your list and they don't hear from you for 4 months, they may not care to hear from you anymore. And so when they get your email, they may not open it, or they may not even remember signing up at that point. And you meet someone at a trade show. I know this happens fairly regularly at VerticalResponse, and I used to be the delivery and policy person here, where people would collect addresses for 4 years and meet people at trade shows and then expect to be able to mail them and be successful. Someone met you at a trade show 2 years ago and you mail them now, they don't know who you are and they don't want you to mail them. And so it's something where had you upload those addresses right away, then you would have connected with them, that's a great system. But sitting on email addresses for weeks and weeks and months and then trying to mail them is just a recipe for having a horrible email program. So it's something that should be encouraged to people to keep the addresses in there, not just because it's more addresses and more money, but because it's going to lead to more success for them and they're going to be happier with doing email. And you should definitely take advantage of the resources that you have available. Something else we'll look at. Any VerticalResponse white paper you're welcome to use and co-brand, and we can give you, the docs behind those white papers, not just the PDF, so that you can change them and use them on your own. The video demos that I've made that are up on our site under How to Do Everything, you're welcome to take the embed code and embed them on your own sites. And I can show you where you can get that so that you can use that on your own and use it for yourself. And anything else that we offer, you can pretty much take and use. It's yours as much as it is ours, as far as that's concerned, since you're a partner.
Yeah, this is a really good point because we really try to, when we provide a new white paper or PowerPoint or whenever our marketing team creates something for our general customers, we like to try to present it and offer it to our partners in a co-branded version, and so that you don't have to do it yourselves. But there are ones that are constantly going out. So if you see one that you're interested in having co-branded, let us know. We'd be happy to present that to you.
Definitely, we can do that. I mean, we just released a user guide that you guys can have co-branded to include that mention you and us in there, and have your logo in there and everything like that. So all that stuff is yours too, not just ours. And it's more than just what appears in the somewhat barren sort of resources area within your partner dashboard, which will not be too barren for hopefully too much longer. We're working on some ways to add a lot more content into that section. But it's not just what's in there. If you go to our education and support page or anywhere else, all that stuff is stuff that you can talk to us about and have made and co-branded for your own use. And of course, you have to have a strategy to sell email marketing to your clients. That's obvious. And the goal of this is to kind of talk a little bit about email so that you can help you sell it to your clients. And of course, sales in quotation marks there, because you don't want to sell them on everything. But you want to be able to know why they'd want to use email so that you can successfully pitch it to them. And many of you may already be doing that. And of course, part of that is knowing the value of selling email marketing and why it's useful for people to use it. And hopefully, we've gone over a little bit of why that would happen here. So let's talk about some resources that partners do have, and we've mentioned them already. We can make custom landing pages. We do have the Marketing Center and the product. Again, as I've said, that's kind of barren, but that's going to be increased. And the other things that aren't in the Marketing Center, you're welcome to get access to too. All the training and best practices and educational resources you have, and you can also direct your own customers to. I do demos all throughout the week and webinars all throughout the week on a lot of topics. And if you check our events calendar, they're there, and you can attend them and learn more about what's going on with Vertical Response. And also, you can direct customers to them if they want to learn more. I like to think I present fairly good presentations usually, and everyone else who joins me in them also do well. And so it can be really useful resources. And we're not a company that generally sells things in any of their presentations. We have no interest in, and we want people to use us because they are interested in us, not because we're trying to hard sell them on some call. So you're not going to be selling your customers on something else when they come to a demo that we're hosting. We have, of course, your dedicated partner success managers. You should certainly put them to use. And marketing program materials, again, you're welcome to things that we have on our site if you come to us about them. Now, email marketing sales tools, again, the webinars and weekly demos I've mentioned, those white papers we already talked about for you to co-brand, and we can help you co-brand them. Sales presentations, we have presentations and things like that you can put to use. If you see a webinar that we've done and you would like to get access to the slides or work with us to co-brand those slides and things like that, and you present it yourself, and that's perfectly fine for you to do. Marketing campaign creative, if you see us using creative in a marketing campaign, then you can take that obviously on your own. We're not going to mind. You are directing people to us. And then our marketing blog is a great place to get ideas and to get ideas for your own blog that you might run about marketing to get people interested in what you're doing. So the resources here, and we'll actually bring this slide back up when we do the Q&A, but it's great to know where the resources are located, and we'll talk about this again when we come to Q&A. But now I actually want to go into an account. I'm going to pause my screen here to do that. And actually look at some different things in the account that you can put to use and things that are coming for you to use. So everything's paused right now, but one moment and I'll have the accounts pulled up.
Sent that email out. I sent that email, I believe it was late last week, regarding the new reporting features that are coming out tomorrow. I did say today in the email, and today is not quite over, so perhaps they'll be in there by midnight tonight. But definitely tomorrow you will see new reporting features, which are really quite exciting. And I don't know are you going to talk about the new list management system first? So that's also something that is coming, and I have not. I'll be sending an email about this shortly, and so will Michelle. Shortly and maybe early next week about some of this. So you guys are even getting a sneak peek, the people who are actually on this call, getting a peek even before those who are going to get the email next week regarding this new list management area and also new monthly pricing that's going to be available. So I'll let Richard speak to that.
So actually we'll start with the reporting just so you can see that, since that's coming up later today.
Yes.
That way it can still be a sneak peek and not be something that's already in your own accounts. So we have redone the reporting area now to make it much nicer looking and easier to use. And there are a few more statistics, nothing big. There's not like a new opener type statistic in there, but a few more things that are being tracked that weren't being visible before. Now this test account I'm in doesn't have a lot of 2,000 person lists to look at to get good data, but just to show you what the new reporting looks like. You still click on the email to drill down into the reporting. But now what you'll see is a dashboard. And if you've seen the dashboard for our survey reporting, it'll probably look somewhat familiar to that in that, well, one, we call that a dashboard. And then two, it has some very similar looking features. So this is going to be kind of slow, what's loading up right now, because it's not live. It's on a test stage server. So we're not going to click around too much because I don't want to make you to wait while things are loading. But here we can see already, it looks much nicer than it did before, but there's a number of different pieces of functionality here that are great. One, before, if you wanted to see the actual total number of people who had opened or clicked a link in an email, you would actually have to scroll over a chart that was in the report that had some very narrow graphs there. They had some very narrow lines. Now it's actually listed in the graph itself how many people have done it, along with a much nicer graph to look at. Over here on the right, if you've seen it and if you recall, and if you've seen it today, even we have line graphs in the reporting area that show you how the email performed in the first 24 hours. That confuses some people because it makes it look like we only track for 24 hours when we're actually tracking for a much longer period of time with the email success. Well, now, instead of limiting to 24 hours, that kind of graph, we now allow you to change it into certain from between 6 hours and um, and 2 weeks. Now, most email activity happens within 2 days and within the first day usually, so it's not like when you go to 2 weeks you're going to see a bit of traffic. But it's still nice to be able to expand out and see when people are clicking on links in your email and the different things that they're doing. And also, if you scroll over the graph, you'll see, I mean, this graph is not very indicative. The only things that happened in the first hour. But you'll see the number that happened, had one open, 7 clicks. You also see a number, the 0 there stands for 0 to 1 hour. If it was over here, we would see 1 with 1, that would be 1 to 2 hours, and on from there when the opens and clicks happened. You can also just click on clicks or opens down here to actually look at the numbers, and you can drag this chart around. If you like to look at it upside down, then you can certainly do that. You can also right-click in here if you want to print the chart, or you want to view it in 2 dimensions, or you want to reset your view back to how it starts. So a lot more flexibility here with how you can treat this reporting.
And I think that pointing out the printing is a really important thing, especially I know with agencies, they often really love, they've requested this feature 100 times to be able to have a printable, like a PDF view of this summary report page. And so I think this is really fantastic that you're able to do that now with this new upgrade.
Definitely, and I mean, beyond just printing that graph, as you can see, there's a printable view now in the reports area, and it will open up some charts, assuming I have my pop-up blockers turned off. But it will open up charts now in a print-ready format. This entire page is now print-ready, and we will see it hopefully in just a second. While waiting for that to load, you can see down here, kind of grayed out while this is loading. I do have pop-ups disabled, and I don't want to make you sit through me re-enabling them. So just know that it looks really nice and it's print ready when it pulls up, and it's this entire, all the information on this page. So here,
you can easily hand it off to your clients.
Exactly.
In that way.
And you can also download a PDF of this information, export it to a CSV file. So before you couldn't export any of the data out of the reporting, so it's nice that you can now put that in an email to someone in a PDF for them to look at if they don't have access to the account. Underneath here, we've always tracked which links perform the best, but now we rank them in order. The best performing link appears at the top, and on from there, instead of just appearing in the order they appeared in the email, which can be kind of haphazard if you want to see which of my links was the most useful for the people reading the message. You can also see your top performing lists. Now, again, we're in a test account. I don't have a lot of lists in here, but you can see now if you have more than one list in your email, you'll see how each list performed and what kind of open rate it got. And you'll see them all listed out here. You'll see the top 4 or 5 here, and then you can go to more list details to see them all. So you can see which of your lists are doing great. If you have a particular list that's doing poorly, then you could remove it from the process and actually, I'm getting a little scratchy here. I have a cold, and this is my 3rd webinar, so sorry. But you can actually see if a list isn't doing well, you can then take that list out and try some different sorts of emails with it. So it's a great way to kind of drill down into different groups and see what's going on there.
And again, I think this is a really great feature. I know I've had a lot of partners request this before, so I think it's great that we're delivering on those requests.
And also, just something to know, you might see this throughout the reporting area where you can switch between numbers and percentages in a number of different reports, so just keep an eye out for those things. And then you can also do some good comparisons. I mean, you could compare emails before. Now, on the dashboard, by default, it will compare this email to your most recent emails. If we drill down into more comparison details, which we'll look at in a second, it will compare. You can compare your email to any email that you've mailed out, and also it will compare you against your account averages. And you can see it's doing that here too, but it will compare it against any emails that you've sent. So it's nice to be able to see what is my average open rate, what is my average click-through rate, and how does this perform in relation to that. It's a very useful thing. Over here on the left, you see a lot of things that used to be scattered around through the reports area, like downloading lists, creating a new mailing list using this data. Now, if you go to create a new mailing list, it will actually ask you if you want to create a new mailing list of opens or clicks or non-responders. It'll just come up with a page asking you that. We might look at that in a second. And then you can view the email, edit your reply to address, all the things you could do before, but now all in one place instead of scattered around this sort of basic maintenance stuff. Now, in the Reports tab, you get some more detailed information. You can also access this more detailed information by clicking these links. That'll also open up the reports tab to each section. We'll just go right there and see some of the things that you would have here. And it's going to chug along here. But what we're going to see is there's a place where you could see all of the lists that you mailed to and how they did. A place where you can compare a number of different emails against each other, not just the most recent ones, but any of them, and also the averages. A place where you can still see your domain report to see how you performed at each domain, and a couple other things that, since I'm not looking at it, is escaping my mind. And it's unfortunate that that we have to be in the back end of the system. That's the only reason it's going slow. So now we see in the comparison chart, this is just showing how your email compares against your averages for all of the different tracking that you do. And that's how just the reports area opens. Here's where you can look at all your clicks and your links. A nice thing now in the clicks and links area is that, as you may know, with a click, we track every click on a link, even if someone clicked the link 2 or 3 times themselves, because they could have passed the email on to someone else. We don't track opens more than once, but we do track the clicks. If someone clicks a link twice, it'll count as 2 clicks. There was no way to separate that out before, but now you could say, I want to only look at unique clicks and not every click done, and I don't want to look at multiple clicks of this link by the same person. You can update that, and then it will only show you the unique clicks. It also puts the text links and the HTML links together by default, but you can separate them out by clicking these checkboxes. Before, it looked really messy because those were separated, and text emails are received by only a small percentage of people, so it's kind of silly to have them separated out anyway. Your mailed list, this is where you would see that same mailed list data, but we only had one list, so there's no need to click on that and wait for that to load. The domain report looks exactly the same as before, just a list of your top 100 domains and how you perform there. Then the comparison, just to show you what you can do here. Again, just what you would expect to be able to do. You're choosing emails that you want to compare against each other. You can compare up to 5 at the same time. But some nice things you can do in here is you can easily disable the different ones you're looking at. Anyway, we'll look at this in a second if it'll just load for me. I don't want to get ahead of myself. And while this is loading, the next thing we're going to look at, as soon as we look at this comparison, is the new list management system, which hasn't been announced as coming to Partners yet, but that is coming to Partners hopefully before the end of February. And it's going to allow a lot of different things, including monthly pricing, which will be there in addition to pay-as-you-go for the email credit pricing, and also some much better database management. That's something that I think is a really big deal. If you have a lot of experience using VerticalResponse, you may know that our current list system, and that you would see in that, if you have 20, you can have as many lists in your account as you want, of course, and that's still going to be true. And if you have my email address, which is richard@verticalresponse.com, then you can have my email address appear across as many lists as you want. I could be in 10 different lists. Well, in the old system, each email address would actually reflect a separate record in the account. And so what that would be is then if you needed to change my city or state or any piece of information about me, and you go to one record in one list and change it, it doesn't change it in the other 9 lists, and you have to go to change those too. It makes it very difficult to handle that stuff. And this is like this page is going to load. But I think you get the idea. You can compare emails against each other here. I'm not going to make you sit through that. And again, this is not live. This is in a test area, which is why it's running so slowly. The regular reporting won't do that. Now let's talk about the mailing list management system and how it's improved back to where I was at. With the new system, as you can see here on this page, this system now has a master list. And this master list appears for everyone. And what the master list is the home of every master record in your account. Essentially, every email address in your account will appear on the master list one time. And that one time is your master record. And now every iteration of that email address across your list reflects that master record. So in the old system, you change one record, it won't change the other 9. You have to change them each individually. In this system, you change one record, it changes them all, because they all reflect the master record. So it makes it much easier to manage things on an individual level than it did before. You need to change my city from Oakland to San Francisco on my record. You change it once, all my lists are updated in that way. So now, when you go to upload a list, so I just want to show you how the process has changed really quickly here. I'm going to browse my computer for a file. We'll do a list of presidents, since we just had an inauguration. And so now, one thing remains the same in that you're mapping your file fields to your list fields. So you're choosing your email addresses are labeled as email addresses, first names as first names. You can still create your own custom fields. In this case, this is a fairly goofy list in which I'm listed whether the presidents were bald or not that are in this list. I could create as many custom fields here as I want, up to a little bit more than 200 pieces of data. Something else that's different now than used to be is when you would create a custom field, it would be specific to the list that it was in. Now custom fields are specific to the account. So when you create a custom field, that happens for everyone and not just for the list that you've uploaded. Now your set import rules, this is a very big difference. This wasn't here before. With set import rules, what you're doing is determining what the master list will do if it encounters any conflicts. When you upload a list, if an email address does not appear on the master list, it will be added to it. If it does appear on the master list, though, then you need to know what will happen if there are any conflicts in the data. Is the phone number different? Is the city different? Is something changed? Do you want to keep the older data that's already in the master list, and that will actually end up reflecting in this list when you upload it for that person? Or do you want to import the newer data and have, the city of San Francisco now overwrite my old city of Oakland that was in the master list, which would then create San Francisco as my city across any list in your account? So you can preserve the older data or import the newer data, and you have the choice to do that right there. And then that's everything. Then you're done building your list, and it's uploaded to your account. What else? The other thing the master list is good for is that to properly do monthly pricing, the way we're handling and implementing it is that, pay as you go now, it's based on credits. Each credit's equal to one recipient. You can buy credits in bulk, use them over time, all that stuff. With monthly pricing, it's not based on the number of people who receive your email, it's based on the size of your database. And to tell people the size of their database, we really need to know the accurate size of the database. We don't want to tell you your database has 10,000 people and have someone's address in there 6 times, because that's not the size of your database. That's just a bunch of different segments of a single database appearing as multiple lists. So with the master list, since everybody appears there once, that shows you no matter how many lists you have in your account and how many people are in your account added across all those lists, the master list gives you an accurate count of the number of individual email addresses that appear in your list. So here you could see if we added Chicago, San Francisco, and newsletter lists together, that would be more than 2,500 people. But since there's no duplicates in the master list, that gives us an accurate count of how many people are in the database. So with monthly pricing, then what's happening is you can mail to your database unlimited for the price of the monthly fee. And so we'll just take a quick look at that right now and how that works, and then we'll look at some other improvements here really quickly. And then we're going to point out a few more things and go into question and answer time. If I go here to buy more, same as it's always been, instead of having the pay-as-you-go option, now you have pay-as-you-go and pay monthly. And these prices, this is actually a test account too, and these prices are more expensive than the actual monthly pricing is. So here, pay-as-you-go works the same way. You want to buy a number of credits. Monthly pricing, though, you choose the size of your database. Here, my database is 2,500 people. This is the tier I want to be in, and that's my monthly price to mail to that list unlimited. Again, this is more expensive than the actual price. So why would you choose one over the other? Well, pay-as-you-go, if you're going to mail to your list once a month or less, pay-as-you-go is probably cheaper. If you're going to mail to your list twice a month or more, monthly subscriptions are probably cheaper. You don't lose any functionality with either one. It's just whatever one's cheapest for you, that's the one that you choose to take as a person choosing how you're going to pay. So just to give an example, let's say I wanted to buy credits once a month, and obviously you could buy credits way more in advance than that and make them cheaper. But I wanted to mail to my list 3 times a month. I would buy 7,500 credits, that's $90. Over here, I can mail unlimited to my database, that's $46 actually. I could also be billed every 6 months or every year and even get it cheaper than that. So that's the new option. Pay-as-you-go is not going anywhere, it's always there. Monthly pricing is just the new addition to give people more options when they are doing their emails, obviously. So going back into lists, I want to note a few more things about the upgrades to the list management system, and then also just talk about a few other things in the account that it's really useful to know about and put to use. So here, another great upgrade is if you go into any list, that list will have a tools section. We see right there. And this tools section will, one, let you download unsubscribes and bounces or download the entire list. But also, if you go to mass update, you can now upload your own list to update this list. So let's say I wanted to, well, delete people from an account that are in the list. I can just upload them and that will delete them from the account. Let's say I want to unsubscribe people from an account that are in a list. Let's say you have a new customer and they have a list of unsubscribes that they need to be unsubscribed from their account. You can come right here and upload their file and unsubscribe them on your own, something that used to have to be done by
through,
support
or through me.
or through Christina.
So again, this is something that I know a lot of customers have asked for them to be able to do themselves, and this is a really great upgrade.
And you can also do suppressions in the same way. You can suppress people from a list just by uploading that list, and then you can come back and unsuppress them later. The only catch here is that the file has to be formatted in CSV or TXT, which is normal. That's how all lists have to be formatted. But your file should only contain email addresses and nothing else. So you want to delete all the other columns, delete the column header that says email address, and just have one column of email addresses that you upload. And then everything will work fine. Otherwise, the system won't accept it, and it will tell you, I didn't accept it. Also, if you go to individual list members and look at them, it looks much nicer on the member record. This particular email address doesn't have much information on it, but you would see their first and last name up here, all their contact info here. If you want to edit it, you go to Edit. From the Edit area, you can change all their information naturally. You can add new custom fields. You can really do a lot of stuff here that you couldn't do as well before. Also, if I was to change this email address to an email address that already existed in the account, the system would say, email address already exists, would you like to merge the data? And then would merge that record with the record that already has that email address. So it's smart enough to find duplicates and things like that, even as you're typing them in. Also, with an individual record, you can determine what lists that record will appear upon. If you just click on the lists area within the edit section of that record, then you can say, he's in my Chicago customer list, but I also want to add him to my newsletter subscriber list. You click that, you save your changes, and now he is part of my newsletter subscriber list. Now he's always part of the master list because the master list is the master database. You can move people around, suppress them on the individual level just by coming here, checking boxes, and saving things. So there's other things in here, but I don't want to spend too much of your time going over this. And I want to have time for questions. So there's a few other things I wanted to mention here before we move on that are useful selling points of Vertical Response. One, in the list area, we have the segments tool. A lot of people are putting it into use, but a lot of people aren't. And I really think more people should be putting it into use. It's free to use. And what it allows you to do is it actually allows you to segment your mailing list in a lot of different ways. You can do it based on any data in your list. So let's say I'm going to have this is the example I always use, I'm going to have an event in Nashville, and I only want to invite people in my list who are in Tennessee or Kentucky to that event. I don't want to have to go through that myself and find them. Here you can just come to segments, create a new segment, and then you set up a search for just the people in your account who are in Tennessee or Kentucky, or people who are in a specific list or a specific set of lists who are in Tennessee or Kentucky, and then it will find those people, create a new list of just those people, and then you can send your email out to them. You can do a number of other things in here too that I quickly want to show you. You can also work with your reporting data. So you can say, I want to find everyone who's opened one of my past 3 emails, or I want to find only people who specifically clicked one of these 2 links in this message and create a list of those people. You can also work with both your reporting data and your list data at the same time. And say, so you could say things like, I want to take this list, but I want to suppress anyone from it who opened this last email because I'm going to send a similar email out, and I don't want to hit people who are already engaged with the same messaging again. So you could even send the same email out to the same group, just come here and say save and choose this option and suppress openers or people who clicked a link, or people who converted if you're using click to conversion from that list to mail it out again, just to show what that looks like. If we use this advanced segment option, click Save and Build Segment, then we can come here, say I want to add a list rule. I'm going to say I want to take my newsletter subscriber list, and then I'm going to add, we'll just add another list rule. We could also add a campaign rule or reporting rule and say I want to exclude everyone in my newsletter subscriber list who's in my Chicago or San Francisco customer list. So I sent an email out about a special deal to my customer list last week. I now decided, hey, I want to try this deal now with my newsletter subscriber list. But some of my customers are on my subscriber list. I don't want to send them the same deal again, we'll say 3 days later. So just to make sure they're suppressed, I say anyone who happens to be on my customer list for Chicago and San Francisco, those people should be excluded from this new list I create of my newsletter subscribers. Now this won't exclude them from your actual newsletter subscriber list. It will create a new list of just your newsletter subscribers minus anyone who also happens to be in your Chicago or San Francisco customer list in this case. And here, I only have 2, so I only get 2 people left over when I do that suppression. So it's not really worth going through and looking at them, but you can see how easily that can work. One other thing you can do here is split testing or A/B split testing, where you can choose any list in your account. And as you go through this process, you don't have to set up any sort of search parameters. You can just choose a list. The very last step in the process, when you go to save results, will actually ask you if you want to create one list from this data you found, or do you want to create multiple lists. Now we're going to pretend like this isn't just 2 people. But I could say, I want to create 3 lists with this data. I want one list to be 10%, one list to be 10%, and one list to be the remaining 80%. So what you could do then, if you were a client, had different subject lines they wanted to test, say for their Nashville event, you could test one subject line to 10%, one subject line to another 10%, and then whatever subject line performed best, you could use with the remaining 80%. So it's a great way to see if there are tests and see if there are ways you can improve what you're doing. There are a number of videos on how to do everything site that really get in depth with using the segments tool. I also do a demo twice a week that's in depth on using it too if you really want to learn more about how to put that tool to use.
I think doing A/B split tests are a really good thing to do. A lot of our customers are always asking us, oh, what's the best time or day to send of the week? What's what's the best subject line? And a lot of that often, I've seen a lot of case studies, and it's always shown that it's very particular to your list, your group of people that you're sending to. So to really test that yourself and to see what works best for you is just a really great idea. And I think and this tool is just so great at being able to do that.
Yes. Yes, it is. It's very nice for that. Now, we're going to go into questions. I know that we're getting close to 2 o'clock here, so I could mention lots of things, but I want to mention one other thing that you may or may not have seen. Not that. I want to go to Account and go to Analytics Setting, because this is where we have our free advanced reporting that anyone can use. So if people are using Google Analytics to track the traffic on their website, you can come here and turn this on to add the domains that are being tracked, submit changes, and then what will happen is that we will add tracking code to the links. Someone clicks a link in the email, makes their way to the site. Then in Google Analytics, you'll see they came from the VerticalResponse email. Then also, you'll see the exact people who went to the site and then what they did in Google Analytics. So it's just like seeing the click reporting in VerticalResponse, except you can see how long they were on the site and lots of other stuff. So it's very useful, and Google Analytics is free, just like this integration is free. So it's a nice thing to implement for website tracking. Also, click the conversion tracking. This allows you to take a snippet of HTML code, add it to any page on a website, and then if someone clicks a link in the email, makes their way to that page, and you can add it to more than one page, they will track as a conversion in the account. This is useful for a thank you page after a purchase or a confirmation page after an event sign up, because if they make it to a thank you page, they went through the full process. They clicked a link, they chose an item, they made a purchase, they got the thank you, they have converted because they did what you wanted them to do.